welcome back to Football Week. I am Deshaun, the Average Joe, and this is James, the Pug Puglisi. We're going to talk a little bit of D2 football review. Not something that I always talk about, but generally during the Husky bye week, like I did last year, I talked a little D2 football. But I'm actually going to take a step back, and I'm going to give it to my buddy the Pug over here. Let him do it up.
Well, for recapping last year for Central, one other thing. If you're watching this on YouTube, the links will be below to all of our videos for Football Week, and also there will be links to my Facebook, MySpace, and Twitter accounts where I do a lot of Central coverage. I'll be posting this on the Facebook and MySpace too, so if you're watching that on those accounts, check out my YouTube account.
By the way,
yes.
I just have YouTube. I don't believe in Twitter.
You don't believe in Twitter? Twitter is obnoxious.
It is obnoxious.
I mean, I have one, but just to promote, like,
yeah.
You know,
I thought about it, and I was like, I don't want to.
Well, the thing is, like, I hate it when I have to go past 140 characters.
Right.
Like, I would rather say, I went to the store. Like, I store. Like, or in store would be spelled like S-T-O.
It's like the text messaging of the future.
Yeah, like, I would rather send out a text than...
Because we don't text in English anymore. LOLs, Rafflecopter.
Did you know LOL is a word?
It is a word, I know, and that makes me sad.
Well,
I want to shoot myself.
But you'll do well in Scrabble.
Yeah, that's fine. You know what? It doesn't come up in the words of French, so therefore it doesn't count.
All right.
Just saying.
Right.
Enough about grammar.
Yeah.
Let's talk football.
Yeah, exactly. Let's talk some Central football. Last year, unfortunately, was a really disappointing year for the Wildcats. We were ranked. I think we either were ranked 21st or 22nd in the country. And as I said in my season recap video, I knew, and I don't know about other Central fans, but I knew that our time as conference champions was going to end eventually. If you want to take away the 2 years we were in the North Central Conference, we had won the Great Northwest Athletic Conference 5 times in a row. So it's okay to have one bad year, but it was a rough season. We got up to...
Dynasties get built and they eventually fade away.
Yeah, but we got up to an 0-3 start, which really did hurt us. The loss that hurt us the most probably was the Western Oregon game. We lost 14-7. We turned the ball over 5 times. And then we kind of got in a little bit of a run. We beat Simon Fraser and Western Oregon at home. And then we lost to Humboldt at the homecoming game.
Which is a team you never, ever lose to.
Yeah. Well, they've been on the rise. I mean, even when we were the #1 team in the nation, they challenged us. Mm-hmm. You know, at the Redwood Bowl in Arcata. But I mean, not in Ellensburg. But yeah, losing a homecoming game is huge for Central. Like they had I can't remember the stat, but they had this long winning streak on homecoming. I mean, it was obvious that it was one of those homecoming W. You know.
Right.
So at that point, it looked as if we were going we weren't going to get the conference. We fell out of the rankings in both categories, the region rankings, the top 25. So at that point, I'm thinking, at the personal level, let's just finish with the winning record. We finished with the winning record, okay, you know, we're not the conference champions, but if we finish with the winning, we still have some pride, you know, that type of deal. We were on the pace to finish with the winning record. But then we lost to Simon Fraser 35-24 on the road. And we had our first losing season in a decade, which changes everything. It changes everything. Because if they can get that game and finish at 500, well, then we're coming in to say, okay, maybe it's a fluke. Maybe we can challenge a couple teams over here. We can, maybe there's an opportunity where we can pull some upsets, maybe crawl back into the conference title race, the region or ranking race. Now we're just looking at having a winning season.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that. That's not where you want to go. That's not where you want to be, though. I mean, you know, it's unfortunate. I'll grant it, we're not at Dixie State or Simon Fraser, but it's not where Central fans want or are familiar with being there. You know, I mean, even before we went on our run, we finished if my memory serves me correctly, my freshman year, we won the GNAC by a game, but we were like 6-5. Or 6-4. You know, there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
You know. So the final standings went like this. In first place was Humboldt. It was
God, that kills you to say that, doesn't it? I can just hear you. Humboldt.
Yeah, Humboldt. Oh man, you know. You know our good friend Devin Keys.
I do know Mr. Keys.
We were Christy and I ran into Devin Keys at the Wildcat shop after after last year's homecoming game, and we ran into him. We ended up hanging out with him later on the night, and And he said, oh, what did you guys go here? I said, oh, we went to this Central homecoming game. I said, oh, we won, right? I said, no, we lost. We lost? And I just said, yeah, we lost. He said, well, who did we lose to? And he obviously gave me the impression it was like this huge team, you know. I was like, we lost to Humboldt. And he just, like, for the next 2 minutes just kept saying, like, it could have been like, you know, do you want Reese's Pieces? Humboldt. Humboldt. We lost Humboldt.
I saw that. I was just happened to be looking. I mean, every now and again I check the D2. What's going on down there as a
or over there?
you know what I'm saying. But I don't pay attention to them as often as probably I should. But I kind of look at them as an aside, kind of go, let's see what's going on in the rah sector of college sports, because I like to be reminded. I've only been to three games total in my lifetime going to Ellensburg, but one thing, I would always go to the Humboldt State game, and I'm like, this game's over. And when I saw that they lost, I was like, Humboldt State? Really?
Yeah.
And I was like, what are they doing? Did they stop smoking weed?
You know, I said this last year when I previewed Central. Bill Cosby, came, as you were aware of, and unfortunately you didn't get to go.
I did get to go because it was the same night as homecoming for
UW?
Weekend for UW.
For UW, yeah. And that was the first thing he said. He was like, Humboldt State, yeah, good job. You beat them. Yeah, it's Humboldt State is only the capital of marijuana. Like, you picked a great team for homecoming. But anyway, the Humboldt State, the Lumberjacks. You know, it doesn't kill me to say Humboldt State. It kills me to say Lumberjacks. How can you take a team seriously? They're named by the Lumberjacks. I mean,
you know, they're okay. They sleep all night. They work all day. Give them a break, man.
Yeah, they wear big pads and a thong.
That's right.
Anyway, you said that. I hope you remember that. That wasn't me. That was him. All right. Okay. So they got first. Western Oregon got second. Those two teams actually played each other for the GNAC title in the last game of the season. Central got third with a conference record of 4-4 and an overall record of 4-6. Simon Fraser 2-6 in conference, and then Dixie State, kind of the new Humboldt State, is 1-7. We'll talk more about what is expected for Central in just a second, but we have a 16. The GNAC finally has expanded back to 6 teams. Now, I do have to make a correction. Obviously, something was incorrect. I said this last year and the year before. I've been saying that in order for the GNAC champion to go to the playoffs, is that they have to have 16, and then the conference champion automatically goes to the postseason. That is not necessarily true, but that's not true. I apologize. That's my bad. Sorry. But it will increase our chances of going into the playoffs. So I have a source, and he or she will remain
the anonymous source.
The anonymous source. But
love that. I love the anonymous source.
No,
great source.
But it's somebody affiliated.
It's a legit source.
Yeah, it's somebody.
They just remain not.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I like to respect, people's names.
Jim Rowe.
Jim Rowe.
Yes!
Jim Rowe.
I don't know.
Jeez,
it's anonymous.
Well, I would rather take Jim Rowe than Colin Cowherd.
All right, well, that's fine.
I mean,
the Thundering Herd.
Who's apparently hates Washington for some odd reason.
He's from Washington.
I know! But anyway, so basically I went up, I asked the source on Facebook about does the Azusa Pacific joining the league create an automatic berth for the GNAC champion? And the answer is no. And for the next 2 years, it's the old system. Because Azusa Pacific is jumping from NAIA to Division II, so they're not playoff eligible yet. So for this year, it's the same thing. If a team from the GNAC is going to go to the postseason, they need to be ranked in the region, and then they need to be ranked 6th or above in order to qualify for the playoffs. All right, so that's the old system. That's what's going to take place.
So does it change when Azusa Pacific becomes officially eligible?
Yes.
Okay.
In the 2014 season. Okay, so basically there's not an automatic berth. There's something called a earned access berth.
Isn't that basically the same thing?
No. Meaning, basically what an earned access... Basically we will... Actually, you know what? I'm just going to read what he
Do it,
said.
man.
All right, so the source says, to answer your question, not yet. Azusa Pacific has to become playoff eligible, which won't happen until 2014. Okay. Even then, it's not an automatic berth, in quotes. It's called an earn access berth. An earn access berth would only be available if a GNAC team was ranked among the region's top 10 at the end of the regular season. If that were the case, the GNAC would get its champion into the postseason with an earn access berth. Then we had some messages, and then I said, so to clarify, because remember I said the top 6 go in, right?
Right.
Okay, so to clarify, a team from the GNAC can go to the playoffs if they win their conference. They then have to be ranked in the region to have a shot at an earn access berth. If the GNAC champ is ranked 7th through 10th and earn an earned access berth, then the team in 6th in the region is knocked out of the playoffs and replaced by the GNAC team. Does that make sense?
No.
No. Okay.
I seriously, I was
Okay.
trying to follow, but
Okay.
that seems like a lot of hoops to go through just to make the playoffs.
Yeah, okay, so let's say, let's say this. Remember when the Seahawks were 7-9?
Right.
Okay, so, and you know how the Seahawks shouldn't have made the playoffs, but since they won their division, they got in?
Mm-hmm.
It's something very similar to that.
Okay.
And also, actually, here's probably a better example. You know how in the NBA, they take the division winners, but if the 4th wild card has a better record, that first wild card gets a better seeding instead of that division. It's the same thing.
Oh, okay.
So, like, let's say Central in this, let's just say Central wins the conference and is ranked 8th, but they get that earn access berth, even though they're not ranked 6th. Then the team who's ranked 6th will be knocked out, and Central will go into that postseason berth. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
A little bit, but again, it just seems like a whole lot to go through just to make the playoffs. It sounds like you guys are getting the Boise State treatment.
You know, we talked about that on the phone yesterday, which lasted 14 minutes. That's for Amanda. But if that's the case, now granted, I haven't seen all of the schedules just yet, but I really hope we're not getting the Boise State treatment in the regards that we have one non-conference game this year. So let's just hypothetically say that
Is it the Lone Star Conference again?
Yeah, yeah. We'll go into that in just a second. You're familiar with the team, but let's just say like the new system was already in place, so we got one chance on the national level to show that we can win. Come on.
Yeah, definitely.
So does that kind of make sense? Like,
no, it does make sense. It's a lot of red tape.
Yeah, it is a lot of
tape.
Well, and that's the reason why when we were going to the playoffs, it was such a big deal. Because, you had the Lone Star Conference and the MIAA, which stands for Mid-Intercollegiate Athletic Association, I'm pretty sure. And it was like, oh my God, a GNAC school is in, because the GNAC school at the time had 5-4 teams, whereas the Lone Star, I believe, has like 9 or, something like that. But does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So now we get to talk about the subject that I know you're familiar with, and that's the play calling. Now, I watched my my review today from last year, and I'll say again, I like Coach Blaine Bennett. I think that he has done a really good job coaching the team. He's got 3 conference titles right off the bat. You can have one bad year.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with having one bad year. Apparently, unless you're Jim Mora. But that being said, one of the reasons why that Central was so successful during that time, in my opinion, was Blaine Bennett's play calling. And he has a very similar style of play that I would probably do. And I don't like to talk about play calling because everybody has their own.
Of course.
Like if you and I were to play a game in Madden,
the play calling would be extremely different. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And you would probably pick a team that would fit your style, right? So the fact that I'm bringing this up is kind of it makes me uneasy. But I'm noticing that teams are starting to pick up on Central's game plan.
Got to add more wrinkles at the end of the day.
Yeah, and Christy and I went to the homecoming game. Central played a good solid first half. We're only down by 2, 16-14 at halftime against Humboldt. But you could see the pendulum swinging. You could see that they played a really good zone defense because Blaine Bennett's play calling, at least I'm not the person with a clipboard, but you could see he likes, from what I noticed, he spreads the ball around. He uses a receiver over here, a receiver over here, a receiver over there, running game over there, and then when he needs to play, boom, top receiver, boom, touchdown. And by doing that, they methodically move down the field, and they they score field goals and touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
But I watched 3 games online, listened to another one, and went to the Humboldt game last year. And I'm noticing that teams are starting to pick up on it. So I'm wondering, does something need to change? I mean, I don't have the playbook in front of me.
Right.
But do you see where I'm coming from?
No, I totally do see where you're coming from, and I do think that because every coach is unique, and every coach likes they have their playbook is their Bible, and very few times coaches want to put anything that's different in their particular playbook. I mean, that's what makes coaches. That's what separates good coaches from great coaches. Great coaches are always learning, and they're always trying to find different ways to improve the system that they have. But a lot of coaches go with the if it ain't broke, don't fix it approach. And that seems to be the problem that's going on at Central. Now, I'm sure that over the off season and looking at tape and reevaluating what they see, they're probably going to add more wrinkles. You may still see the exact same thing, but you may see instead of run pass run, it might be run pass run, and then with a gimmick play here every so often. So I mean, it's just adding those little things to your playbook. You can still keep it the same, but just add those little things to keep teams honest.
Right. Well, and another thing too is, and I said this.
Sorry to get all John Madden on people.
No. Well, the other thing is last year just the offensive and defensive lines were so streaky. And I'm really hoping that was addressed in the offseason. Now, I don't pay attention to the recruits. Mm-hmm. I mean, and that's for all college football. Dogs, Cougars, Cats,
Because there's so many, it's hard to keep up.
Exactly. Well, and 9 times out of 10, they don't pan out. That's for Clayton. But anyway, I just really hope that they did something to beef up the offensive and defensive line as well, because there were times where they both looked great, but they could not play consistent. And because, I mean, there were some games like, the Western Oregon and Simon Fraser game at home. They looked fantastic. Then you look at Texas A&M Kingsville. Defense did their job. Not so much on the offense.
I remember watching that game online. We watched that before we went to the Raiders game.
Exactly, yeah. And you saw, what I was talking about.
Yeah, definitely. They would get into the red zone, and it was kind of just fizzle out. I'm like, you gotta ram it in, damn it. Get it in there.
So I do hope that also has been addressed. And I don't like to talk or question play calling, except for Greg Knapp. Because Greg Knapp is like, seriously, it's 3rd and 18. Why are you running it up the gut? Like, I've never seen.
There's no point in that. But again, and you know what? 1% of the time, that play works. But usually on 3rd and 17, you're just going to throw a pass about 8 yards and see what you can get and kick the ball.
Right. I mean, it's just, I don't want to question the coaching staff. I don't want to be that angry alumnus and everything. But, I mean, something unfortunately has to change. I mean, the conference is completely different compared to when I was there. I mean, Humboldt State. We have to take them. We have to take them serious now. So, looking over at the expectations now. My expectations for the Wildcats is to finish with a winning record. You finish with a winning record, you're done. There's not as much pressure on the Wildcats to do well this year. So just finish with the winning record. So where are those wins going to come from? Well, your favorite saying, on paper, we've never lost to Dixie State. Right. So there are 2 games right there, home and away. We can beat Azusa Pacific, new team. We've crushed them when they were the NAIA. They're going to go through some growing pains, even though they're ranked higher than what I think they need to be in the coaches poll. But we'll go through that in just a second. So you got 2 games right there, home and away. Then you got the home games against Simon Fraser and Western Oregon. Boom, there's your winning season. You got 11 games. You got 6 wins right there. Take care of the games that you were supposed to win. And then all of a sudden, the toss-up games, the Simon Fraser game on the road, the Western Oregon game on the road. Well, now
what was their away record?
They're 1-4.
1-4. See,
1-4.
that's you gotta win more than one game on the road.
Yeah.
You have to. I mean, if you can somehow get to 500 on the road, getting to that winning season it actually takes a lot of the pressure off because you could have your 6 wins, 6 or 7 wins, and then if you drop one at home, there's not as much need to panic.
Well, and another thing too is they also got to protect the home field advantage a little bit. Now, granted, they lost the 2 games that they did lose to. They were 3-2 at home, and the 2 games that they did lose to were top 25 opponents.
Right.
So and that's okay, but they're not necessarily the ideal home team either. I mean, you never want to be 3-2 at home and 1-4 on the road. But the only game where I think the Wildcats will just flat out get blown out will be the Lone Star Conference opponent, which we were talking about, Texas A&M Kingsville. And you saw them last year when we watched
They are a high flying offense, man. I'm not even gonna lie.
Yeah. They that's gonna be a really tough opponent. Unfortunately, I don't have their ranking. I think they are ranked. Don't quote me on that though. But any team from the Lone Star Conference is huge. Unfortunately we have to open up against the season on the road. And there.
That's like we opened the season last season.
With them coming up there.
Yeah.
Up to Ellensburg. So, but I do think that there's a legitimate shot to at least have a winning season, which will throw us into the GNAC title, which leads me to the coaches pool. Coaches pool came out. I'll go from worst to first. They have Dixie State finishing in last place, Simon Fraser finishing in 5th, and then they have the Azusa Pacific, the Azusa Pacific finishing in 4th.
For a new team coming out of
NAIA. Yeah.
That's ballsy.
Yeah, that's
super ballsy.
Yeah, I was really surprised with that.
Anything is possible. I mean, they might be giving them a little bit extra fun because they're the new team in town. So in a sense of, again, sometimes when you have teams that fly on the radar and you play like you've got nothing to lose, that's actually your best defense sometimes.
Right.
But again, it's a complete shot in the dark. I wouldn't necessarily say that's the strongest pick from the coaches poll, but
Right. Well, they were playing as an independent last year, and they were 9-3.
Oh, okay.
So that's the only thing that I
can
muster up.
So they played teams in the Lone Star Conference and in the
MIA. I couldn't tell you.
Okay.
All I know is every single time when Azusa Pacific and Central played each other, Central blew them out of the water.
Okay.
So, in 3rd they got Western Oregon, and then they have Central in 2nd place with 2 first-place votes. My guess is one of them is Blaine Bennett. Actually, that was a funny story. When I was doing the radio show on KXLE, I interviewed the baseball coach, and I said, "Well, you got 1 first-place vote in the coaches poll. Was that you?" Yes.
Everyone's going to vote for their own brand, man. That's how it works.
That's not necessarily the case because in 1st place, right now, you got the 21st team in the coaches in the national coaches poll, and the 2nd team in the D2Football.com poll, and that's Humboldt State with 4 first-place votes, who last year finished 9-1 and 7-1 in conference play and won the GNAC title. My predictions vary a little bit. I have Azusa Pacific finishing in last place. I'm sorry, Cougar fans. But they're a new team. They're gonna be like the Colorado Utah of the GNAC. Next up, I got Dixie State. They have yet to show anybody that they can play.
I miss St. Cloud.
That's in the North Central Conference.
I know. I missed them.
You just like them because they are the Huskies.
Yes. St. Cloud State. It sounds fluffy and happy.
Oh, jeez, Louise.
That was also ironically it was every time I came up, it was either we played Humboldt or we played St. Cloud.
And it was the one, when's that one time we saw St. Cloud? It was the Huskies versus the Central Washington Wildcats, and then Arizona Wildcats playing Washington Huskies. So
that's right. The Wildcats won, and the Wildcats lost. I was like, yay, happy day! It was awesome.
In 4th place, I have the Simon Fraser Clan.
That's a great name. I'm not gonna get into it. I don't want to.
Okay. Well, in case you were wondering, Dixie State went from Dixie State Rebels to Dixie State Red Storm.
Interesting.
But that's what I have. I have Central finishing in 3rd. Based on what happened last year, so I have them finishing same place last year. I got Western Oregon in 2nd, and as much as it pains for me to say this, I have Humboldt State, but it's their conference to lose, so there's nothing really I can Say
that sounds very strong. Yeah, you do always have to give the advantage to the previous champion until proven wrong.
Right, and so the one thing I will say though is, if it's the GNAC, I thank the GNAC. If it's Central, I thank Central. Thank you so much for not playing Humboldt State on homecoming. It's just like the first time ever. Like we were playing your favorite mascot now, the Clan. We're playing Simon Fraser Clan, the Canadian school. But why does that amuse you so much?
We'll talk about it off camera.
Or supposedly. Okay, so let's review the schedule. We got Texas A&M on the road. After that, it'll be Simon Fraser on the road. Then we got
starting on the road.
Western Oregon on the road. So 3 road games, which is good because that means the marching band will have to be there at 6 games. Anyway, I'm not going to go in there. Central will open up their home portion of the season against the Azusa Pacific on September 26th. And then they will play Humboldt State on September 29th. It's followed by a trip to St. George, Utah against Dixie State. They will return home for their homecoming game against Simon Fraser. Then we'll go on a 2-short road trip to Glendora, California to play Azusa Pacific, and Arcata, California to play Humboldt. And then they'll wrap up the season with Western Oregon and Dixie State. It should be a fun season, looking to rebound for next after a disappointing season last year. But let's focus on a winning season, and hopefully things will pan out to the point where we're talking about a little bit more positive things after this season. So, any final thoughts on the Cats?
I really hope they do well. I mean, it'll be interesting to see. They've got their first 3 games on the road. That's a long.
In Kingsville, Burnaby, BC, and Monmouth.
Burnaby, BC is actually a really beautiful place. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I tried to go up there, but nobody wants to.
Yeah,
I invited you.
I have rehearsal.
Your rehearsal. I have rehearsal. It's gone. Seriously, it's gone from like, hey, Deshaun, would you like to hang out? It's game day. It's gone now. Hey, Deshaun, do you want to hang out? I have rehearsal.
Got the careers to keep up on that.
But anyway, as you were saying, so.
It's gonna be those first 3 games are actually gonna be a huge test because when you start out your season on the road, you're just waiting to just like get back some good old fashioned home cooking and see what you can do there. And playing against another North Star Conference team, that's gonna be tough. So good luck to them. If they can go 1-2 on the road,
I can see that.
That'd be great. It would be a great start going into the home part of the season.
Right. Do you think? Give me really quickly. Where do you think the Cats will play?
I like the middle of the road. Third, maybe fourth. I mean, again, it just depends on if they can. They need to get more than just 1 win. If they can get 2 or 3 wins on the road, I can definitely see them finishing in second place.
In second place. Okay.
No lower than 4th.
Let's hope not. No longer in 4th. I'm just surprised that Azusa Pacific was ranked so high. It's like
it's one of those things.
Well, maybe it's just I have to see them play at the D2 level, and we'll see how it goes. Well, thanks for watching our Central segment. Again, if you're watching this on YouTube, links below to my Facebook, MySpace page on Central coverage. If you're watching this on Facebook or MySpace, there's a link to my YouTube blog, and I'll also put Deshaun's up there as well.
The Average Joe Sports Vlog.
So that will conclude Central. We're going to move to the NFL. We're going to talk some Seattle Seahawks coming up next here on Football Week.
Woo!